Yeah. So don't we what?
His council council meetings. So. Sorry. Sorry about that.
Oh, no. This is public.
Yeah.
This is public service. So. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Public, I mean, overall, economic development workforce, these people.
So right after it's done. Yeah. Should we post the YouTube, send it to a hundred? Just be like, this is where we're at. Let's get moving.
Yeah, that's what you need to do. This is how. So you should emphasize that it's not just doing passive.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Start it off.
See the library?
Sure.
You want to go see the library?
One longer. Oh,
See you later.
sure.
And I can share pictures.
I'll close.
I'm ready for a rock.
You ready?
The security guard was in the box
Oh, yeah.
at the library.
Oh, yeah. Mark's friends with the security, or I'm sorry, Ben's friends with the security.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm calling the meeting to order at 10 a.m. I welcome all of you, and we will begin with roll call. Ben McDonald will lead us in that effort.
All right, we will begin with roll call, and we have first Kmar Devani. Chancellor Sonia Christian. Honorable Assembly Member Damon Connolly. Honorable Senator Smallwood Cuevas.
I'm her designee, Omer Sohail.
Could you please let me know where you're reporting from?
The Hawthorne location.
Thank you. Jamil Dada.
Here.
Leanne Eager. Diane Factor.
Here,
And could you please let me know where you're from?
from the South Bay Web.
Thank you. Director Nancy Farias. Angelo.
Here.
Dean Falk.
Present, San Francisco.
Thank you. Lawrence Frank. Secretary Kim Johnson. Leonard Gonzalez. Jason Hayter.
Here in Hawthorne.
Thank you. Secretary Stuart Knox.
Abby staying for Stuart now.
Hillary Lentini. Stephen Levy. Rebecca Miller. Stephen Monteros. Robert Redlow. Nicole Rice. Charles Riojas. Fabricio Sasso.
Here.
Honorable Assembly Member Pilar Schiavo.
I'm her designee.
Aveen Sharma. Jeremy Smith.
Here.
Annette Smith. Bruce Stensley. Floyd Trammell. Director Joe Xavier. Gloria Young.
Present, San Francisco.
So Ben is giving us a total.
Do you count Tony Thurman? I didn't hear you say Superintendent Tony Thurman.
Oh, my apologies.
Designate.
I'm the
That one, because I
designator.
noticed you were here for.
Got it.
Tony Thurmond.
Yes, Carolyn Zachary's designee.
Is anyone else present whose name I did not call? All right, thank you. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12.
Okay, so we have 12 members present, 17, I believe, is a quorum. And so we are well short of a quorum. This means that our action items portion of the agenda, we're obviously not going to be able to do that. And we will need to deliberate internally with staff after this meeting on our options moving forward, because having a quorum is a very obviously basic tenet of a public meeting. Thank you, Ben, for doing that. This meeting is being conducted via teleconference on the Zoom platform from remote locations. This meeting is being recorded. By being present, you consent to being recorded. The public can view this meeting via live stream on the CWDB YouTube page, and a recording of this meeting will also be posted on that page. The California Workforce Development Board is meeting here in Sacramento with satellite locations in San Francisco, Hawthorne, as listed on the meeting notice on our website. A link to the YouTube page, meeting agenda, and board packet information can be found on our website, cwdb.ca.gov, under State Board Meetings and Archives. Public comment is now open and can be heard after each agenda item and again prior to adjournment. Public comment will be accepted via email at boardpubliccomment@cwdb.ca.gov. And I'm happy to recognize those comments. We can allow for 2 minutes for each comment, so please make them concise. All public comments received by email will be read aloud during the public comment period noted on the agenda and will be included in the meeting minutes as part of the public record. To request to speak, please use the raised hand feature to type speak into the chat function, and I can recognize speakers. You can also type questions into the chat, and we can try to get to those as well. But please note that anything typed in the Zoom chat box will be included in the meeting minutes as part of public record. So we'll start with labor agency update.
I'll actually pass this over to Abby, who's representing the secretary.
Sure. So just a couple of quick things, Jordan, I wanted to mention. I think we've been filling the board in on some of the progress on the career education master plan, which has been working for well over a year to implement the governor's executive order to create a new master plan for career education, career pathways. That work is wrapping up with a draft plan expected in November and a final plan to be released in December. And it looks like some of the broad colors within it will have to do with improving state and regional collaborations, enabling structures to do that better, looking at better alignment of funding and programs around career pathways, around workforce training, and looking at credit for prior learning as a tool for advancing people, especially adult learners, in what hopefully will be a no wrong door system, as well as a push for dual credit for high school students. So those are just a few high points I think we are likely to see embedded in the plan, to be released soon. And then, the hard work of what this, I'm kind of looking at it as creating that infrastructure or framework, and then the hard work of program development and action planning would come after that. The only other thing I'll mention is both the state board and workforce services branch and apprenticeship standards have been very busy this fall, either issuing solicitations or preparing to issue solicitations. You probably have it elsewhere on the agenda, but the CWDB High Road Training Partnerships for Healthcare is released. Would really encourage people to look at that. I'm sure you'll say more later on some of the other planned solicitations. I don't want to steal your thunder. Kind of from Workforce Services Branch, the Opportunity Young Adult Solicitation is out. And this is focusing services for good quality jobs for young adults, who've been systems involved, multiple systems between the ages of 18 and 28, looking for kind of high quality cohort-based training with robust support services. I think those are due early in November. The Workforce Services Branch will be issuing a solicitation for technical assistance and a learning partner for that grant. They're also getting ready to release the second round of Farm Worker Advancement Program funding, which will build on the success of last year's in soliciting programs that will create career advancement opportunities, especially addressing the impact of climate change and technological innovation in the agricultural sector, to look at opportunities for farm workers and their families to advance in their careers. And then there should be a second round of funding going out this fall, also to support supportive services in employment social enterprises, those primarily nonprofit small business models that provide employment while delivering a service or product, building on that model in a way that the business revenue provides wages, and this funding supports some of the wraparound support that enable participants who come, with pretty high barriers to employment to succeed in those jobs and then transition into other jobs. So it's kind of a heads up of what's coming.
Thank you, Abby, and we appreciate Secretary Nass's leadership and support. Is there any comments from the board here in Sacramento regarding SNAE's update? Is there any comments in San Francisco or Hawthorne for Ms. SNAE? Okay. Jeff, do we have any public comments?
No public comment on YouTube or via email at this point.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Ms. SNAE. Our next three topics are all going to be led by Ashley regarding budget, legislative, and state plan.
There we go.
Hi, thank you. So I have action items. Do you want me to read them and then not vote on them?
So we don't have a quorum, so we're actually gonna have to forego all of our action items. So we're just focusing on the updates and discussion portion of the agenda. Budget,
Okay.
legislative, and state plan, please. Thank you, Ashley.
Okay, no problem. So for our state plan update, we are currently, excuse me, we are currently redoing the structure of the state plan. So our state plan was accepted and finalized by the Department of Labor in June of this year. So everything was accepted and we are good to go until the modification in 2026. We begin working on the modification a year in advance. And so we are actually working on the restructuring of the plan to further align with DOL's software, which will make it a lot easier for us to upload into the system. So that is going on right now, and we will be reaching out to partners early spring of 2025 in order to get the ball rolling early. As far as legislative updates, we only had one bill that passed, AB 2873, and all of our other bills died during the session. This bill is a breaking barriers bill, and it changes the requirements on an existing program and doesn't provide us any allocation for breaking barriers in the future. So it's actually doesn't do a whole lot at this point in time. But if we were to receive allocations for Breaking Barriers programming in the future, then this bill would require changes to reporting requirements. Other than that, that is the only updates that I have for both those items.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ashley. And there's no update on the budget. There's no update on the budget. Okay. So thank you, Ashley. Is there anyone here in Sacramento that would like to have has any comments or questions for Ashley?
I have some questions. Ms. Ash, is that the?
Yes.
Right here, okay. Ms. Ashley, you said you gave one bill went out of the legislature this year. How many total did you guys have for your ledge package?
That were, I believe we had 18 that started the session. That made it out of the legislature. We had 2. The other bill that made it out of the legislature was SB 1375, which was vetoed by the governor.
And who were the authors of the SB 1375 and 2873?
Yes, SB 1375 was Senator Durazo, and AB 2873 was Assemblymember Reyes, I believe. But I will double check that.
Thank you. I have no more questions.
Thank you. Anyone else here in Sacramento? Do we have any comments or questions from San Francisco or Hawthorne? Okay. Jeff, do we have any public comments?
No public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. We will now proceed to our potential board resolution, but this is a update and discussion topic only. Standards for infrastructure related funds. And Bruce is absent. We're gonna turn it over to Jeremy Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to give a quick update. Diane can fill in, please, Diane, fill in after I speak, but I'm part of the little subcommittee of Bruce, Diane, and Fabrizio. We have come up with something. I think that we're close to wanting to share with you, Mr. Chair, and Kaina. I'm not sure what the protocol is on that side of things about staff approval or whatever, but maybe at the next meeting, we might be ready to share with the whole board a discussion draft.
It's more about formatting and making sure it conforms with legal. And so just from that standpoint, but yeah, thank you for doing that, and we'll be happy to do that.
I think Bruce reported at the executive committee meeting that, you know, he'd had some stuff in his personal life that had slowed us down and slowed him down in getting the drafts around and having us all comment, but we've reignited that email thread, and the 4 of us are talking just even last night. So I think by the next meeting, we'll have something to share.
Great.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank
And
you.
whatever Diane wants to fill into, I think she might have some color to add, maybe possibly.
Hi, yes, so just as background, this is a result of the May meeting in which there was significant public presence talking about the concepts of climate equity and labor standards to be included in a high road model to maintain that high road concept in what the board does. And I just wanted to say that I've had significant dialogue over email and a couple phone calls with Brooke Barnum Roberts, your legal staff. And so I believe, I'm just curious about the process, because we had kind of prepared a draft to be submitted in August meeting, and only to learn that we had missed a deadline, which we weren't aware of. We did get it in about 10 days prior to the August meeting. Yeah, so I have that those emails between me and legal. And so I'm just, if Kaina could give us a clarification of the process, because a draft was submitted. It's okay. I'm not criticizing. I just don't understand the process. So Brooke told me that if we submitted a draft by October 9th, that it would be evaluated at this meeting. I'm kind of glad it isn't happening since we don't have a quorum. But I was sort of working hard with others to meet that August 9th deadline, and we did submit a draft. There's been some minor but good changes since then. But so can you please explain the process of how you do these resolutions? Because my understanding, it has been cleared by legal counsel and it is all kosher, as we would say. And so what goes forward now? What?
Thank you.
happens
So
now?
Brooke, thank you, Dan. Brooke will respond and then we'll turn to San Francisco after that.
Hi, Diane. Can you hear me okay? This is Brooke.
Yes, hi, Brooke.
Hi. So I think we've been working well together. I think the issue and the holdup for me has been there's not been a consistent single point of contact representing the group. And so I was working with Bruce, and then absolutely, I know things come up, life happens, but then I started trying to work with you. And then now I'm hearing, that Jeremy's working on it. So it would be helpful for staff to have a single point of contact, I think, moving forward. And in terms of deadlines, we do need 10 days in order to post the agenda and, any material that should be posted with the agenda. And then you add on remediation by communications to ensure that it's ADA accessible. You add on review to make sure that because this board reports to the governor through the labor agency, that all those various partners are on board and know what's going on. So I think just the sooner the better. If we can continue working together, I'm optimistic that, the next meeting we could have a draft, but we just need that continuous communication on both sides. We're here to support you. I do have that latest draft, Diane, and if Jeremy is on board with that as well, then, we can send that up. So that's where we're at.
Jeremy?
Just to follow up on what you said, so it sounds like 10 days before the next meeting, you guys have to post the agenda publicly.
Exactly. So we just
So what-
it back.
So I guess, what are the numbers of days you need to get through all those first hurdles? What would be,
Yeah.
can you give us a date where we'd have to have something to you, where you would feel comfortable?
A month. I mean, a month.
Well, a typical SAR process, so there's a process internally for review from the secretary, which is generally a 30-day process. We can get it a little shorter sometimes, but that's generally a 30-day process through the official review. So it's basically about a 40-day time frame to get that back to us and then be posted in time for the agenda to be live.
Wow.
And
Could I
when's
just
it- I should know.
on that?
What?
That I have emails that verify it has, that the draft has been reviewed by both, Kina and Stewart, and that it has gone through the ADA.
I am
legal
not
review.
sure that Stewart has ever seen the resolution as of this.
Oh, I thought you were speaking on his behalf when we both,
No.
he had a phone call and then I heard that it was okay. It sounds like this will be sort of the third time through the process.
Nothing has ever been submitted formally through the SAR process because we haven't finalized the draft based on the remediated questions that we sent back to Bruce originally. And the latest draft did not incorporate a number of those recommended intent language questions. So I'm not certain that we have what I would consider a formal draft to submit because I have two competing documents.
So I just want to interject a little bit. Dan, I understand your frustration regarding the communication. I think internally between you, Jeremy, and Bruce, and we respect, whatever Bruce is going through, to have one point of contact, and then you guys can communicate with staff offline, just in terms of the internal logistics of that process, but generally 40 days, for process in general to the whole, to the board. But on this specific matter, I think it's better that you guys internally follow up, just out of respect for everyone else's time.
Let's connect that.
So, San Francisco. You're on mute.
Yeah, just to let you know, we had two new members join here as we think about quorum.
Yes, so
Yeah.
I saw them in the chat box, but if you could say it verbally so Ben can acknowledge it as well.
We might know them.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Jim Sunan, as designee for California Health and Human Services Agency Secretary Kim Johnson. Thanks.
Thank you.
This is Floyd Trammell, West Bay Local Development Corporation, San Francisco.
Thank you both for acknowledging that, and that's noted. We still are short of a quorum, but this is important to continue to update. Jeremy?
So when is,
Hey, Angelo.
We also have
Hillary Lentini is here too now in Hawthorne.
Okay, thank you, Hillary. And we're gonna be going to your update in shortly, Jeremy.
so when is the next board meeting?
Okay.
Just to
There's,
go backwards?
We're scheduling 2 meetings next year, one in March and one in September. We're finalizing a new location at the California State Libraries.
Okay.
It'll be a much more congenial spot and also a little bit less tech heavy on the issue orientation.
Okay.
So we're hoping that that will be a suitable location.
Next meeting's in March then.
It will be in March, yes.
Okay.
So how close are we to quorum now?
Still off by 3.
two. We're off by 2.
Oh,
So, okay, so,
I
Jeff,
just need, excuse me.
Yes.
I just need, so who? I understood that I was the point of contact on this letter. I had spoken to Bruce in August. His mother had passed, and that was what was going on then. And I know that there were separate conversations between Bruce and between me. And then last night I heard, or a couple days ago, I heard from Jeremy, and I'm pleased with, working with him and all that. But I want to make clear who is the point of contact. I'm happy to continue in that role.
Diana, this is Jeremy. I think
Yeah.
that's up to us to decide. I think the group is fine with you being that. Maybe we can talk about that offline.
yeah, that's an internal matter between we will respect whatever the 3 of you come up with. So I just don't want to take up the whole board meeting's time, but Jeremy sounds like he's fine with it. And you guys can confirm that offline.
Okay, I'm assuming we're gonna have a pretty short board meeting, so
Yeah, that's.
I don't see the rush, but anyway.
Well, it's just a matter of, how contextually relevant it is for everybody to engage that. My point is, we're not going to designate who your spokesperson is. It's for the 3 of you to determine that, and we will respect that. So thank you, Dan. And so San Francisco, you wanted to add further?
Yes, this is Gloria Young. I wanted to ask a question. As I understood it, there will be 2 meetings next year in 2025. What's the rationale from going from quarterly meetings to 2 meetings?
Well, this is actually included in other business, but I'm happy to address it now. Since I've taken on this role, we have had trouble meeting quorum, and so hopefully reducing the number of meetings will add to the engagement, will add to the number of items that will be discussed, and so will increase the amount of participation.
statistically, how do we know that that would be the case?
I don't have any evidence to back that assumption, but given our difficulties over my tenure, I was hoping that this might be a way to remediate that issue.
I wonder, as another board member, I'm wondering, considering that post-pandemic that many people are working from home, can we consider like an online model just for board members? Think about that, because I'm just wondering, maybe that may be some of the issue where people are now life balance work. Just a thought.
Floyd, the legislature passed new regulations regarding public board meetings, not just for our agency, but in general, in terms of, protocols and public access and so forth. The point is it's more heavily regulated, so people can't discretionarily just have, a private viewing. It has to be public, accessible to all the public of wherever location that board members are convening from.
Yeah, that's right. This is, excuse me, this is Brooke, the legal counsel. I did do a presentation on this last year when the changes went into effect.
That's why it's happening.
But basically, we wish we could do that, you know, in terms of accommodating our board members and being flexible, but we have to respect the, you know, the law and the way that things stand when it comes to public participation and public meeting rules. That's not possible.
I kind of wonder, since we're allowing the public to come in on YouTube, I mean, how are we doing that? I mean, the public is coming on YouTube, but yet we're having in person and online. I kind of wonder is there a potential to go back to the legislature to think a little bit more clearly about that, because the public is coming in on YouTube. But yet, I'm just thinking that, I'm not saying that I understand the law that's been passed, but I just think that we kind of have to think we're in a digital world. How do we use that to our advantage?
We respect your perspective on this, Floyd, but the legislature has its own public due process where you can speak to your legislators independently of this meeting to share your thoughts, for them to consider authoring legislation to go through the process. As an institution, you know, we can't, you know, directly perform that function, but you're welcome to share your thoughts with your representatives and you know, have that process be considered. For right now,
I appreciate that. The reason I'm bringing that up, because if he's saying he's having problems this year, I'm just trying to thinking about brainstorming with him. If the executive director is having these issues, how do we brainstorm? How do we get through that logmire? I'm not trying to be defensive. I'm just thinking about how do we think creatively about getting to the quorum.
We appreciate your input. There are legislators and the designees even present in this meeting right now. I'm sure they're taking note of all these things. But beyond that, you know, for the purposes of our public meeting right now, there's nothing further the board itself can do other than comply with the law as it's presently stated. But again, there are representatives here that are taking note of that, and they have agency to initiate legislation.
Yes, this is Gloria Young, and I still want to add into that conversation, because one of the concerns I have is that there's been a number of meetings where we didn't have opportunities to weigh in with having 4 meetings a year. And so my concern is with 2, how are we going to weigh in? I mean, our action items are for most parts are very limited in terms of us having action into what's happening at the Workforce Development Board. And so I think having 2 meetings versus 4 is a concern.
So I think, you know, the goal from our purposes is to have engagement and to be able to, you know, to provide value related to the workforce system and policy and so forth. My point being that if you feel like the current format is not being able to express the actions you want to provide, please convey how you individually would like, what your objectives are and how you feel we can function that. Because if we need to form subcommittees or look at other avenues, including, you know, whether it's the additional board meetings, we can entertain all of that, but it would be helpful to have the context so that the appropriate mechanism is it's proportionate to what your request and your desire is. We don't want to do like a catch-all of something that if it's beyond the scope of what individual board members want to do. And again, the bigger point that I think Kaina is also making is that this is not a reflection on many of the people here, and some people, you know, for legitimate reasons that can't be here also right now, of their commitment to the board and to the meetings and the level of engagement they want to do. The issue is that as an overall body, if we don't have a collective level of engagement as presently constituted, it's a significant problem for us to be able to conduct our business. So again, that does not mean that individually everybody that reflects on all of us individually. So we welcome your input. Feel free to email Kaina your thoughts about how you would like to more specifically how you'd like to be more engaged, and then we can evaluate whether it's agenda items, meetings outside of the official board meetings, or changing up the way that we do the official board meetings. There's a number of menu options, but again, we want to make it more specific to what what you directly want to do. And that's not just to Gloria, but any board members who have those thoughts about how they want to participate more. Please communicate that via email. That would be helpful for us to evaluate.
Mr. Chair, we have one more person who's coming to San Francisco.
Okay, who is this?
Leonard Gonzalez, Labor Training Center.
Okay, perfect. So we're one short now.
Yes.
Thank you, Leonard. Yeah, Carolyn.
Just a quick question. What does our state plan say in regards to
At least one meeting a year.
at least one meeting a year?
And this is in conformance with Department of Labor as well. Okay,
One more comment.
yes.
Sorry, I think the hand was up. Okay.
Thorne?
Thank you, Chairman. So Hillary Lentini, board member here in Hawthorne. If we want to flag to our members that we're having trouble reaching quorum, we should make this an agenda item. I think we should vote on this and have a hearty discussion around this. It's clearly an impact of the Batchley-Keene legislation that you referenced, which we can't control. But if that is causing us to have issues around convening with a quorum, I think we should agendaize it so it's clear to all members. They can read it at their leisure and they can understand that we have a challenge here. I think cutting down meetings is the worst choice we could be making. We do already hear about a lot of decisions that have been made after that's happened, and it's already too late for us to weigh in and give our informed lived experience perspective on. And so cutting down to 2, I think will just make everything worse. Now so all that aside, I think if we agendaize this and make it clear that this is a challenge that we as a board need to face, I think that is the safest, most expedient, most effective course of action.
Thank you for that input, Hillary. Thank you. Fabricio?
My comments were going to be the same as hers.
Okay. We will take that feedback for the agenda for the March meeting and follow up accordingly. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything further from Hawthorne? The hand is
Yes. Hi, it's Diane Factor here. I think I heard from or that there was going to be look at people who are on the board who haven't attended in many meetings and maybe replacing them with people who will be more active and obviously care about this. Again, I agree with Hillary that reducing to 2 meetings a year is not the best solution. For the problems you stated, Farouk, I think that there might be other alternatives to get more participation.
So I appreciate your comment. The issue is that what is our jurisdiction for us to influence that matter? It's the governor's office, the appointment secretary's office specifically that that have the scope of determining who's on the board and so forth. So there are bylaws and there are procedures that we have set, and those things will be adhered to. But
we are actively working with the appointments team and secretary on just those issues in particular. And a big reason why this meeting, even though quorum was going to be difficult, was not canceled, was because of that, to be able to show the number of absentee status from existing board members that then qualify under the bylaws for removal.
Okay, this is Gloria again. The question I have is, I understand that you are talking about putting this item on the agenda in March. If we were having our 4 meetings a year next year, what would be our next meeting from this meeting? Because if we do it in March, that's already assuming that we're not having an earlier meeting. So what would be the first meeting that we would have in 2025?
Typically, it was in February, the 3rd week, and there was 3 meetings this year, not 4.
Okay, sorry, 3. So should we have a meeting in February as opposed to moving it to March? Or would we assume that if we had the meeting in March and made a decision that then there would be 2 additional meetings in 2025?
I think we can take that under consideration, especially since we haven't finalized the determination on the number of meetings, the cadence of the meetings yet. So, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, great.
That's good.
Thank you all for your valued input. It's all very helpful for staff. And so even though this was technically in our next agenda.
We took care
But
of it.
it's okay. And Jeff, there was no public comment related to this item, right?
No.
Okay, so, our,
Sacramento.
I see, Cesar.
please,
Is it okay if I comment on the resolution part of it, because then you guys jump to.
yeah, do you want to come up here closer to us?
Yeah, of course.
So this comment is in reference to,
This is regarding the
2E.
potential board resolution standards for infrastructure related funds.
So, good morning, everybody. SS Alaro with the California Labor Federation. Just looking forward to a resolution being brought to this board. We were here several months ago in May and brought in, 50 really impacted workers that gave their testimony here. It's important that we use SB 150 to come up with some policies that really look at how can we center the climate equity and labor standards. I think as we look to the federal government, they've set a path going forward in regards to Justice 40, and I believe that SB 150 is a stepping stone towards what California could do as their California version of Justice 40. Looking at supporting union job creation, job quality in regards to getting workers to the middle class, some equity standards that really center workers, community benefits and community benefit agreements. I think through the California Jobs First initiative, we've already woken a lot of the community across California, and this will complement that. And then, transparency and building on existing models. We have the High Road Training Partnership, the Year Board championed for years that could complement the work being done forward. So thank you and look forward to March.
Or February. Thank you, Cesar. Appreciate your comments. Are there any other public comments from any of the other locations? Okay, so we will move on to other business. Hillary Lentini, would you like to provide an update? SRC.
Yes, thank you. And I did send this in toto via email to Miranda, so she can put this whole thing in the minutes too, for anyone who's frantically trying to take notes. Okay. So in my official role as liaison between California Workforce Development Board and State Rehabilitation Council, my update is as follows. October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month, NDEAM. The theme for NDEAM 2024 is Access to Good Jobs for All, which is aligned with DOR's mission and statewide initiatives focused on equitable employment opportunities for all Californians. Disability inclusion is good for business. Hiring people with disabilities helps employers expand their talent pool, strengthen the workforce, diversify the organization's culture, increase employee motivation, and reduce turnover rates. In addition, there are federal and state tax incentives for hiring people with disabilities. And here are some resources to learn more. The Employer Assistance and Resource Network, EARN, offers information and resources to help employers recruit, hire, retain, and advance people with disabilities and build inclusive workplace cultures. DOR is hosting a special free webinar, Advancing Inclusive Employment, on Thursday, October 31st from 10 to 11 a.m. DOR Director Joe Xavier and California Natural Resources Agency Secretary Wade Crowfoot will discuss the progress, challenges, and future of inclusive employment practices within state agencies and beyond. The register online is a bit.ly, so I'm going to ask Miranda to just put that in the chat for anyone here and include it in our minutes. Employers can connect with DOR's Disability Access Services, DAS, section at dasinfo@dor.ca.gov for information, training, consultation, and technical assistance to remove employment barriers for people with disabilities. Second update, updates to Section 188 Disability Reference Guide. The U.S. Department of Labor Section 188 Disability Reference Guide provides information and technical assistance that can help American job centers and their partners in the workforce development system meet the non-discrimination and equal opportunity requirements for individuals with disabilities in Section 108 of WIOA. In October 2024, the U.S. Department of Labor added amendments to the guide that include information on 4 things: affirmative outreach to diverse populations, effective communication to increase accessibility, including practices related to deaf and hard of hearing individuals, intentional inclusion of the use of newer technologies, and promising practices in design and delivery of services to respond to the needs of traditionally underserved communities. And the last and third thing is DOR Student and Consumer Handbook. During the September 11, 2024 SRC meeting, DOR reported they are updating the DOR Student and Consumer Handbook, a guide that provides information on pre-employment and employment services. The focus of the updates is balancing regulatory requirements with usefulness of the handbook, utilizing plain language and a user-friendly question and answer format, emphasizing accessibility and gender neutrality, including information on student services, including DOR's Title IX Non-Discrimination and Office of Civil Rights, OCR, contact information, and including contact information for counselors, the Client Assistance Program, and DOR's district offices. That's the report.
Okay, thank you, Hillary. Does anybody here in Sacramento from the board have any comments or questions for her? Okay, and Hawthorne or San Francisco, any comments or questions for Hillary? Are there any public comments for anybody in any of these locations here in Sacramento, Hawthorne, or San Francisco? Jeff, are there any electronic comments?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you, Hillary, for that update. We appreciate your service on the board. We already went over the standing of the meeting schedule, and it's not a determined effort. Okay.
So, you know, based on the commentary that has been received from board members, we'll be sending out a survey to all of the members to assess what the cadence and what the timing would be to maximize participation.
That's great. Yeah, we want to get the input from the board, and so it's not a determined thing. Staff will follow up with you, all of you, and we welcome everybody's input on the board. So we're now at the general public comments portion. This portion of the agenda provides an opportunity for members of the public.
Sorry, apologies. If we might interject, just one question from San Francisco, please.
Sure.
I just wanted to just chime in one thing. This is Floyd. Is it possible to also think about reducing what the quorum number looks like to make it more feasible? Is that something to be considered? So then we could, because for instance, if we had one less today, we would have a quorum. Is that potential? I don't know.
Our board is extremely complex in both the number of participants required by statutes and where they come from or where they sit in terms of labor management or management side or members of the private sector. And so our minimum board size is 33. And there's just recent legislation that actually moved it up potentially to 37 based on how the calculations work. And based on that number, we need at least half plus one to be able to ever reach a quorum. And so the difficulties are mostly statutorial in terms of how the board is constructed. And therefore, you know, based on our bylaws too, how we would be able to receive members adds that another layer of complication. And so working with appointments to try and maximize board allocation based on the current setup and then also the future changes to board membership is something that we are working on actively, and we'll be hoping to reseat new board members coming in 2025 to accommodate both those new changes. One of which is, I believe it's Department of Aging has had legislation just recently passed that increases the board size by another 2 members, and that 2-member add, because they are state representatives, actually forces us to increase both the labor side and the management side by an additional set of members too, bringing us to a total of 38. We're still working through all those challenges, but this is part of the issue of having the statutory rules around our board membership, which makes it somewhat difficult to have the right kind of seating on a consistent basis.
Exactly, and because when the state puts those new requirements, there's federal requirements, like the private sector has to have the majority.
50
and so,
plus 1%.
So even if it's not stated in the new legislation, it triggers to offset that from the federal guidelines. And so, yeah.
It's one of the major complications with managing a board of this nature because of all of those restrictions and rules.
So we appreciate the sentiment behind it, and we're going to work with everything we can within the statutory guidelines. Thank you, Floyd. Any other comments or questions from the board in any location? Okay. This a portion of the agenda provides an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on items of interest within the jurisdiction of the board. Comments are limited to no more than 2 minutes per speaker. Pursuant to the Bagley-Keene Act, the commission or the board shall take no discussion or action other than a referral on any issue brought forth here. Are there any general public comments here in Sacramento? In San Francisco? In Hawthorne? And Jeff, are there any electronic comments?
No electronic comment.
Okay, staff will be following up on a variety of different topics so that we can be prepared for our options next year. But all of your guys' input and feedback is extraordinarily appreciated, and we're grateful for all of your service. Our board meeting is adjourned at 10:48 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you.